How y'all doing today, man? It's another wonderful day. Here in where I live in Ogreville, it's 40 degrees and it was sleeting. They call it a wintry mix. Uh, that's when the clouds open up and the gods take a giant piss on you, and it's half frozen on its way down to drizzle, down your hat and the back of your neck and get down. It somehow, however it does it, it makes it down into your very being. And so I've been dealing with that today. Felt better just because you like a nice sunny day. And then I seen this. I'm not going to go a lot. We had something planned, but you know what? I just want to say this, Britisher, common sense guy, stories, if I may, very quickly. We get a lot of questions. And what I'm going to try to do is to commit right now to stop saying we will answer these on XYZ day, because chances are they'll never be answered. If they're not answered in the automatic chat or on air while we're looking at the chat that's going on right now, probably won't be. And if they're not answered in the comments section on the after, they probably won't be. And of course, I can speak for everyone assembled here. But no disrespect. It has to do with, well, if we start lining those things up, they pile up and pile up and pile up, and then we can't bring you the good content that we bring you. It would be, and I've seen it happen, gentlemen. I've seen the, ask me anything, the AMAs. Unless they're very good indeed, they always end up being a train wreck of lots of dead air in between somebody reading or thinking about something. And we don't do dead air here. What we do is snapping, in your face commentary on news, on philosophy, on psychology, entertainment, life, love, and everything, as Mr. Adams would say. So that said, man, I hope that's enough. This is Wellsmere's Stories. This is the Common Sense Guy. This is the Britisher. We're all here assembled for your entertainment. I'm sure we'll each introduce ourselves if need be. Anybody wants to know who we are and don't know, you may not should be here. So, Britisher, did you notice that in Zimbabwe, apparently the military went crazy and they now have Mugabe under house arrest? And as far as I know, I don't know a lot about this. So maybe you can start out by just educating me, because I don't think he's a good guy. I don't think he's the greatest of guys, but I do believe he's the overseer of this area. And it appears like this may be another incident like we've talked about before, where there's no incentive for these bad guys because they just, you know what I mean? And so, Britt, if you could shed light on the whole Mugabe deal in Zimbabwe, I mean, I'd appreciate it.
I guess Mugabe is one of these people who went from hero to villain, so to speak. He was kind of seen as kind of the hero of Zimbabwe's independence. I believe he spent something like 10 or 11 years in jail. So, Nelson Mandela, I think, spent 27 or something like that. So, he spent time in jail. He led a kind of guerrilla movement. But then once he came to power, and, kind of realized that power isn't as easy. I mean, we all recall there is someone else who came to office and then later in an interview said he didn't think it would be that difficult. He basically ran the Zimbabwean economy into trouble and whatever, especially due to the fact that he paid off his veterans with land that he took from white farmers. So Zimbabwe, which was the breadbasket of Southern Africa, actually at one point had 2/3 of its population fed by the United Nations, which it was kind of remarkable. It was an unbelievable achievement. I think life expectancy is something like 60 years old. But at one point in his reign, it went down from 63 years, life expectancy of 63 years, down to something like 40, which does show you just how grave the whole thing was. It now appears that, he's basically been manipulating his elections. He's been terrorizing the opposition in order to keep himself in power. But now it seems to be more the shenanigans at the royal court, so to speak. which seem to have kind of tripped things up. So I am reminded of, in order to bring the Romans back in, Marcus Aurelius was the last of the 5 good emperors. And of course, as everyone who's seen the movie Gladiator knows, he was succeeded by Commodus. But already during the time of Marcus Aurelius, there were 1 or 2 abortive rebellions against him. And that came about because false news had spread, rumors had spread of Marcus Aurelius's death. And the simple fact was that everybody already knew that Commodus was a monster. And various generals were not prepared to serve under that creature, so to speak. And what has happened, the reason I bring that up is because what has happened in Zimbabwe is that Grace Mugabe, the wife of Mugabe, who is much younger than him, I think she's somewhere in her 40s, she seems to kind of display all the hallmarks of a real monster. Someone who is, spoilt rotten and is used to getting what she wants. She has got an incredibly lavish lifestyle. I think she's nicknamed Gucci Grace. If she doesn't get what she wants, she's quite apt to physically lash out at people, which I believe she did with someone with an electric cord at one point.
Well, I've heard a lot
who
about
now
that.
has got a scar across her forehead.
Was that the one when she started to whip one of her handmaidens?
Yes.
Yeah, nasty lady.
So this is a really nasty
Gucci Grace.
person.
That can't be overstated. Or Gucci Grace. Remember, while people in Zimbabwe live in abject poverty for the most part, they call her Gucci Grace, and she doesn't even have a R&B record.
But you see, recently, what has happened is that various rivals have been maneuvered aside in the last few weeks. And I forget his name. It's one of these names with 15 syllables that all sound somewhat similar. He has been maneuvered out of the way, and that seems to have cleared the way for her. And I think that was the final straw. That's when the military said, up with that, we will not put. As in, we will not, we're quite willing to stay loyal to our man. We've served him always. We might not necessarily agree completely with what he does or whatever, but we won't take her. We just simply will not accept that. And I think that seems to be what we see playing out here. That Mugabe seems to be finally, after well over 30 years, he seems to be being tripped up by, in a way, his succession. And we have to remember that, already in medieval times, monarchs knew that they needed to sort out their succession. They needed an heir. And if they didn't have that, they themselves would be in danger. And I think here Mugabe has been tripped up about the question of who should succeed him. And I think just basically the nation has basically spoken and said, look, we're not having Grace Mugabe.
And I think we'll do the rounds now, gentlemen. We'll the nice opener, British, are very, very good little educational tool that'll help me in my little piece. What I think I'll do, gentlemen, is I'll give each of us 3 minutes, starting with the common sense guy, moving to Welchmere stories, and then ending with myself. And I just want to mention very quickly, Will Fisher, thank you very much from the boys and myself, from the bottom of our hearts. The reason I've been screen sharing this art is because this is where your 5 quid goes, Will Fisher. We don't go out and get hookers and booze, because Lord knows we get very little booze and very little hookers. But Britisher can take your money and stretch it out into this, even adding his own, and his own time, I might add, to bring you something more visual in our thumbnail, something just a little, hopefully, to improve the channel. So we thank you very much, Will Fisher. Gentlemen, I hope that wasn't too much of a commercial. It wasn't supposed to be. It was just supposed to be a good shout out to a good gentleman. That, man, he's our first. Will Fisher is our very first super chatter. So as it stands, I'm not going to shout out numbers like of how much people donate. I think that's pretty low class. But as it stands, he's our first and now our most recent. So we really appreciate it, Will Fisher. So, well, common sense guy.
I just might,
yes,
before you go on, That piece of artwork actually comes from 3 drawings of us made individually in this very minimalist style by a gentleman called Scotch Bunny, who can be found on Twitter under Scotch and then what you call it, like an underscore, sort of dash bunny on Twitter. I believe he's Danish, and yes, he is very, very good at what he does. I first noticed him because he made some drawings like that for Sophane and Fat Pat from Poisoning the Well, and I commented on it. And yes, the result of that eventually were the 3 drawings of us, which I've kind of arranged into a little screen, screen image as such. But yes, it's all down to Mr. Scotch Bunny. So please continue, Mr. Rover.
Yeah, no, it's actually on Common Sense Guy. But before we carry on, it is Scotch Bunny. It really is. But if you notice in my thumbnails, all I will say is that the black and white stark relief is what was we got from Scotch Bunny. And then I began to, muck about and paint with the figures. And actually what ended up happening is, I don't know if it's because Britisher likes to show off, or he just has got talent and wants to share it, whatever the case may be. This is the end result of the Britisher, and I'm not even going to show you what I came up with, because the comparison would be like looking at a 3-year-old kid's artwork and a graduate student in an art school's artwork. Yeah, and well, we won't go there. So yes, Common Sense. Before we get too far off the Mugabe thing, thank you so much to all of our super chatters. Thank you to the Patreons that support the Britisher, that support the Common Sense Guy. Each and every one of you mean the world to us, and we hope that we can continue to not only bring you better artwork to look at, but the best commentary and the best content that you'll find in a live stream here on YouTube. So yeah, Common Sense, I know you're ready now.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd just like to start off by saying thank you again, Will, and very good luck in your job, and well done for getting your first paycheck. Right. I wanted to say, first of all, that you have to look at this from a process of, if a country is supposed to be under a sense of democracy, which is supposed to be the illusion in Zimbabwe, whether you believe that it's a democracy or not, it's supposed to be run as one. They have elections and things like that. For somebody that has been in charge since 1980s, so working that out, what's that? Is that 37 years roughly? That he's been in charge longer than I've been alive.
Oh man.
So for a democracy, for that to happen is unheard of. That is literally unheard of for a democracy for that to happen. Now, as the drama is supposed to have unfolded, I'll read verbatim for what it actually is and what's supposed to have happened. After days of tension and rumour, soldiers seized the state broadcaster ZBC late on Tuesday. Zimbabwean army officer Major General Sisbus Mayo went on air and denied there was a coup, or coup, as we would say, but said the military was targeting criminals around President Mugabe. Major Gen Mayo also said Mugabe and his family were safe and sound, and their security is guaranteed. It is not clear who is leading the military action. So at this moment in time, we're not 100% sure what's actually going on. This is me doing my own verbatim at the moment, my own rhetoric at the moment. So at this moment in time, we're not actually sure what's actually going on. We're not sure if there is an actual coup for Mr. Mugabe, that's actually trying to get rid of people that are around him that are trying to actually produce a coup themselves, or if this is actually a military coup itself that's trying to get rid of Mr. Mugabe. I don't think we actually know that for a fact either way. I'm actually going to do a Britisher. Until we actually get all the information, is this actually something that's been in the grip for Mr. Mugabe's hands for 37 years? Is he going to let something like that slip? Or is people that have followed him for that length of time still going to follow him? Because there are no such things as a young general. So everybody would have been under his command for such a long time. It's just something that I would just like to point out to people. Military coups don't always happen very quickly, but they also don't take this length of time for people to come out. They normally wait after this length of time for them to die. Especially considering what, he's 93 now? Yeah, sorry, Mugabe's 93, yes.
So what would we do? Well, no, it's not my place. Your time's going. I have something to say, and
Well,
when
you
my
can ask
time
me.
comes. But
You can ask me the question.
well, I just don't know. I mean, at this point, what do we do? Hang the guy? I mean, is there a point where you get to a certain age where what are you going to do? Cut us a guillotine?
Oh no,
Maybe
I think that he should be hung, drawn, and quartered for what he's done to Zimbabwe and what he has allegedly done to Zimbabwe. But at the same time, my point literally is, if he's had military power and grasp for over 37 years, why is it now at 93 that he's losing it? The fact that he has lost it.
Fair enough, man. I'm sorry I cut in there, big guy.
No,
Because
that's all right,
it is,
no problem.
you're making good points, but I like I said, I'll have my time too, and we'll all have a minute to go. You're right at your time. I just cut it off. So stories. Do you have anything on this particular topic that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a in-depth knowledge about Zimbabwe, so that's for sure. I know it was a British colony, and I wanted to refer to history as well, not to Mark Aurel so much, but for me, Mugabe kind of reminded me of like a mixture between Fidel Castro and George Washington kind of guy. So
how so?
Yeah, because he defended the British, like in the Washington style, and then he became kind of a Castro in his country, and I mean. He weakened the country pretty much. I mean, they have a really devastating inflation rate there, and like 200% or something. That was the last figures I heard. But still, I mean, the majority of the people, they love him, and as Common Sense already said, I mean, they have a democracy. It's for sure not a democracy by Western standards. They have less problems than we have, but still, it is a democracy, and so the people in general, they like him. And what I found pretty funny was that the military was claiming that the whole thing is not against Mugabe at all. It is against draining the swamp around him and ending the corruption around him. But they are not talking about him, and that was like really strange for me, because my opinion as well is I don't have the best impression of Mr. Mugabe. But yeah, I mean, when the society loves him, what can you say against him? I mean, surely he did a lot of really terrible things, but yeah, the whole situation is kind of strange. They say, yeah, he's in good conditions and nothing will happen to him, and it's only about his cabinet around him, and really strange situation. And in my opinion, I mean, a military leadership is never a good thing. So let's see what's coming out of it. I have no clue at this point. Will he return? Will they hang him? Nobody has a clue, and it's a little bit too early in the process. We'll see.
Well, it sounds like a break there, and you got 19 seconds left, so that was perfect. Let me say cancel, and I'll just give myself the same 3 minutes and say a couple things about what I do know is very little. I'm just going to echoing what my brother said, because I believe the time he said it, I was talking about how Saddam Hussein, he went up to the scaffold, and if they thought they were going to make him cry and pee his pants and gibber and jabber, no. He went all the way till they jammed the hood on his head, saying, "You are my people. This is illegal. This is my country." Especially now, this would be the time also for my co-hosts, all, including you, Stories, to jump on me, because you know something about me and my philosophies, my ideas. But if there ever was a time, this would be the time, 93, this would be the time to say, have him go drink his victory gin with cloves down at the willow tree. You know what I mean? That's put him out there. And I don't want to draw, like, say that we are Big Brother. We're part of the ministry of love. I'm just saying that there comes a time where we have to decide, if I'm going to get sent things like I was today by a really good friend of mine on Twitter, where I look at these little tiny micro documentaries about how Denmark has this prison sentence, where when you get sentenced to prison, you can't get over 21 years, by the way, no matter what you do. There is no capital punishment. You could murder 25 people. You get out, 21 years, maximum sentence. There's no, the maximum security, they got like metal stuff. And then it's like, the question was asked to me, why don't we do this here in the United States? Because the inmates would kill you. Because we're talking about a country of 8 million people total. We have more than 8 million. We have 14 million people in New York City, the greater New York City area. Include Montauk and Long Island. You gotta be, oh my gracious. We have, as the Britisher would say, there are far too many of us. So I see now I'm at 45 seconds, and I don't want to show my ignorance because I don't know a lot about this topic. I just wanted to show that I do have an opinion, and that's it. Mugabe, I know what he's done too. Don't, if you think I'm ignorant, you can, but I know he's a terrible person. But this would be a great time for us as a everybody likes this catchphrase, world community, to come together and say, let Mugabe go. He's an old man. Shame him, but don't execute him. Don't imprison him.
Well, you see, I don't think there is going to be any execution. The way I see it is, as the army has said, they're only getting rid of people around him. Now, it seems quite clear that at this moment he does not appear to be in control. And once a dictator loses control, I'm not really sure anyone is going to hand it back to him. But I think one of the key reasons why everyone is so keen to point out that one is only going after criminals around him, that's the way they're wording it, rather than Mugabe himself, is because, of course, everyone who is anyone in Zimbabwe is a creature of Mugabe's. So if you are the top general in Zimbabwe, you have been made so by Mugabe. Everyone owes their position to him. So therefore, I think everyone is keen to kind of continue to profess their loyalty toward him. So I could well imagine that he may even end up remaining some kind of puppet president, or just be pensioned off or something. I cannot in any way see him being sent to the Human Rights Court in The Hague or something like that.
All right, and I gave the Britisher a minute. You could hear, everybody heard that, so we all got a minute, and we'll move on to the next topic unless we feel like we need to bust into this.
I would like to have one more point.
You got it.
When Watchmen Stories was saying that there is a democracy, I will point out that there is an illusion of democracy. The reason why I say there's an illusion of democracy is because every single election that has ever been held in Zimbabwe always has the essence, or has been called to have a recount every time. Every time Zimbabwe's had an election, there's been a recount. But only when Mugabe loses.
Yeah, and ZANU-PF is quite known for certain torture techniques, yes.
Exactly. So when you say that there is a democracy, there is an illusion of a democracy, not a democracy. So I just wanted to point that out, just for everybody's information.
Can I quickly respond? No, I totally.
Yeah, well, if he's done, he had 13 seconds anyway, so I'm going to give you a minute. And what we'll do is, once you're done, unless somebody else has something burning, we'll give the Britisher the last word as he has the first word, and we'll move on to the next story. 1 minute.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with your concerns. That's why I was making fun of our Western democracies, pointing out that we have problems as well. But yeah, of course, their democracy is in really bad shape. But at least they let the people vote, and I mean, it is fair to say that the people like it. So I don't know if it is the majority of the people who like them or like him, or only 40%, but it is a really huge part of the society in Zimbabwe who really like him. So, but you are right. In all fairness, that is not a democracy by our standards. Definitely not.
Or any standards.
I won't take my minute. What I'll do is use the last 12 seconds of Story's time to say, yeah, this all sounds very interesting. Britisher, put a cherry on top of this for us, if you will, sir. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that while we prepare ourselves for the next story.
Well, I don't think I'd need too much time. I would just say that, I mean, if it wouldn't be for his meddling and his terrifying people, effectively, he would be out of power. So he cannot really be holding the support of the majority anymore. But Weltschmerz is right insofar that, yes, there is there is to a certain degree, particularly also within the other countries, a kind of warm feeling towards him, because he's seen as one of the one of the leaders in the movement towards independence away from colonialism in Africa. But I think when it comes down nowadays within Zimbabwe, I mean, particularly after the last 10 years or so, his support is basically the veterans and tribal. So basically, I think now he really has lost the overwhelming support of the people.
Was that really your end?
Yeah.
Well, I can't time that. You heard the bell, right? That was pretty great. It was exactly 60 seconds. I love that about my mates. I think we're all pretty good at that when we know we got a time frame. And you know what I often say, mates, is we shift to the next thing. I'm going to ask this while I go and segue. If there's one more thing on y'all's hearts, mates, this is a big thing. And by that, I mean Weltschmerz stories, common sense. I'll give you 30 seconds. If you'd like to have like one last word on this, let me know. And I would say, in the church that I was in, they preach a lot from Revelation and Daniel. And I'm not going to, this is not a sermon, but they would say this, that because of there's a statue that's mentioned in Daniel, this statue of the golden head and silver, and then it goes down to bronze, and then iron, and then clay and iron mixed in the feet, and blah, blah, blah. And they would say, oh, this is pointing to something. And whether I believe it or not, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. I'm not saying I do or I don't. I'm just saying this, that these people would say that the idea of Europe being united is out of the question. That something greater than Nostradamus, who has like I don't know, it's ridiculous. That the greater power, that there is a great, and this is a group of people that say the greater power has said that Europe will never unite. In fact, there were people that got ready to get out of Berlin during the Allies' last bombing raid, based on scriptures from predictions from Daniel and Revelation. They said, no, there's no way. You're trying to make a unified Europe. So it'll never happen. That's the feat of miry clay and iron. And that's neither here nor there, but it is in a way. Because I see this now, gentlemen. There's Britisher, the question that I didn't ask in the beginning had to do with the EU and how, oh my goodness, Britisher, you must have stepped on somebody's toes, because you pointed out what I think is a fact, that Great Britain paid a gigantic chunk of the financial needs of the EU per capita, per country, however you wanted to look at it. Your country, from what I see, I don't know if there's data that we don't know of, Brett. Well, somebody present that. I haven't seen it. So we're not shucking anything. But here we go, boys. An EU army? Who's going to pay for it? Who will they fight? Why? To defend what? Isn't there already an alliance? Why would they want to? I mean, we spend so much money over here in the United States under the guise of we're keeping other people. Then let us spend it. Why in the world would people want to add on another? What language would they speak? And common sense, you can already see. I need to bump this off to you first, common sense, if you don't mind, because I think you may be the most knowledgeable on this about it, even though I drugged Britt there about 4 times. So we'll go with you, Brett, and then stories. What language would they speak, brother? You covered it great. So without who would they rally around? What king? What queen? What country? What? If that's not enough.
Yeah, no, there's only one country that they would, there's only one place they would rally around, so to speak, and that's going to be Brussels. Brussels is a European power And that's what all of the European army, if there is such a thing ever to happen, would rally around. And whoever's in power of that at the moment is Miss Merkel, basically. Obviously not indirectly, but basically. That's neither to say that the Germans would want a Third World War. That's nothing to say that at all. But that's to say, why would you want so much money being poured into it? I mean, at the moment, the European NATO allies, so that's the whole of Europe by itself, is actually putting in $238.8 billion into actually making themselves their like army type of thing. Now, the next one underneath that is UK by 60.3 billion. Then it's France at 43.6, then Germany at 40.6. And then it goes down to 20 after that. So what I've been hearing from the link that we have, or what I've put into the actual video that I did yesterday, not yesterday, Monday, sorry, that it's supposed to be at 5.5 million. Well, that's actually now gone up in this new reform bit that's actually happened. I did the story from the 13th of November, and the link that we have today that we're using to go off of some of our information is been updated and is now for the 15th, and now has lost most of the information that I've actually used on my video, which I find quite worrying, because I can no longer find the actual point of how much money they're actually going to spend. Now, I've just found it. Apparently, that at the moment, the social big goal is to work together to procurement to avoid the current wasteful situation where 28 member states often buy equipment from 28 different suppliers. They'll be backed by 5.5 billion euros to be able to annual defence fund announcement last year, aimed at stopping that kind of duplication. That's 6.5 billion on just procuring weapons. On the actual story that I actually used for this, which was on the 13th of November, actually stated that there was actual 3 other points that they were actually going to have different funding for, which they didn't put down what their funding was. Now, if you have a look at what I've just said before, where NATO is spending $238.8 billion on the European allies, so to speak, so everything's put together, what is the European army going to be spending? Because that means, bar the UK, obviously, everybody's going to be putting their money together. All their defence budgets are going to go together. So I don't understand how much money they're actually going to be spending. And they haven't put that down. And as far as I'm aware, by December, it's going to be ratified without it even going through any sort of form of diplomatic process through their parliament.
Wonderful. And because that was 3 minutes, but if you're not done with your ideas so that we can bounce off of them, I felt like you weren't quite. Were you quite done, sir?
I probably need another minute.
Yeah. Let me give you 2 more to just get us on track. I just feel like you were not done.
The reason why I bring the reason why I bring all of these points up is, if you get to the point where you're actually starting your own army, as Ogre quite rightly points out, who are they going to be fighting for? Who's going to be training them? Are they going to be training in their own countries and then coming to a European country? Are they going to be training in their own countries first? Do the countries actually have armies anymore, or are they all going to be dissolved? And if all the armies are going to be dissolved, does that mean they lose their legitimacy in their own nations? So they're no longer a nation anymore because they can't defend themselves because they have no longer an army. They just have a European army, which means they fall into the European superstate rather than being their own individual countries. And also as well, if you have things like Catalonia that pop up, or things like Holland, or things like Austria, where they're trying to produce their own nationalistics and then trying to leave Brexit, leave the European Union, are they actually going to be deployed on their own people? Because instead of having having Holland people go and attack Holland, wouldn't they just send somebody from Spain instead? Like just somebody for somewhere else. It wouldn't matter anymore because the army's all the same thing. It just bodes to me that there could be a point of totalitarianism in this, rather than it being a massive happy place where everybody gets on. Forcing people to lose their freedoms by paying for it is not the way that freedom's earned. Freedom is earned either by giving it or by fighting for it, not by paying for it. It never goes well when you pay for it.
Here, here.
I think I'll leave that one there.
Oh man, you had 18 seconds left on that 2 minutes. So what I want to do is, Welchman Stories, if you'll keep your ideas in your head, I want to pass it off to the other heathen that has not himself, but collectively has voted against being a part of the EU. So we'll go with the Britisher right now and his ideas. Brett, because this seems to be a deep topic, I'm going to give you the same amount of time.
I would actually like to hear from Weltschmerz first.
Fine, that's perfect. Perfect.
Hear what the perspective has been in Germany. You know, how this has actually been reported.
Well, you heard him, Welchmertz. He's yielding his time, so I'm going to give you 4 minutes right now, Welchmertz, and we'll wrap it up with the Brett.
Well, the really sad thing is that the German press is not talking about it at all. And that is a disaster, in my opinion, because it is a really important topic. I mean, of course, we were talking in the past, I don't know, 30 years about an European army, but now it's like really they are doing it, and it should be in the press, and it should be publicly discussed. And I totally agree with common sense that this. For democracy, it's a disaster that they just do it and then, yeah, don't speak about it.
And Welchmertz, the question in the side chat, I'm sure if it's not directed towards you, it should be. So as you consider the rest of your time, which I paused, I'm going to restart it. Just consider what you're going to say, and the last thing that you see in the side chat there, I'm sure that's for you.
Lügenpresse. You mean the word by AlphaGo, the Lügenpresse?
No, with Saudi Arabia giving citizenship to a robot, or did I miss the word? I don't know, man. You in a I got here, everybody listening. All of a sudden, Welchmert's here with me, and then a Britisher comes in. Next thing I know, they're talking this humming a guttural sounding caveman grunting dialect that apparently they can understand. What they're saying, I don't know, but they're very, very funny. So, look, good gracious, let me give you. So you were at 3. Let me give you back to time. So I just wanted to say that is in your realm here as we continue on this idea. I was just glorified in the side about being, loving my job as moderator, and yes, I enjoy it. And I was told I was pretty good, but I just screwed it up. So, Welchmertz, that is your question there at the end. If you'll continue with your thought.
All right. Now, I think that common sense has some good points. I'm not all against a European army, but I think it's a fair question to ask: will we lose our national armies then? Yeah, that is a fair question, and then the common sense asked it. I think that this whole debate of the NATO, and if we have to pay this 2%, and actually nobody in Europe wants to pay these 2%, is that a trigger that we now really form this European army or not? And in my opinion, we shouldn't spend so much money on military. I'm completely against spending 2% of our GDP. But still, it's our NATO contracts, and Merkel agreed to it, that we will pay the 2%. I'm not really against the European army. I think this NATO thing is completely obsolete. I would agree on that. I don't want America as the military world leader. But I still think that common sense has some good points and asks some fair questions.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. He's still at 1:35. So what I'll do, Britt, I'm pausing it. We'll give you to rebut, and I will save the question to Welchmertz that's off topic for my last little piece. So go ahead, Britt. What am I saying too? What am I saying? No, you want your response time, don't you, sir? So actually, you would now get, let me cancel this. You would now get the same time everybody else got.
Well, the first question, as I say, I think everyone seems to be somewhat unclear as in, what happens to the existing armies. I think as such, this will just be, first off, they're using the word integration and a lot, and integration doesn't necessarily mean that you just abolish everything and then it just becomes one. that can also just mean, you know, a hell of a lot of streamlining of shared technologies and things like that. You see, there is one nation that I am quite sure that I'm pretty certain will not give up its army, and that's the French. That they are not going to be willing to just say, okay, we'll just forget about our French army and we'll just dedicate ourselves to a European army. Because, of course, the moment you do that, you also kiss much of your foreign policy goodbye. Now, the EU already has a foreign policy as such. I believe they have some kind of foreign minister. And that the idea of creating an army more than likely just plays into that. But I cannot see, you know, battalions just basically rising out of the ground. I could very well imagine that this will be some kind of pilot project. They may well be willing to throw a lot of money at it, but whether it eventually actually goes somewhere, precisely because of the problems that common sense has highlighted, you know, to whom are they loyal? What do they actually do? From whom do they take their commands? So if you have a, you know, Dutch regiment that is under EU control, do they take their orders from the Dutch government or from Brussels? You see that there would be split loyalties every single which way, and therefore I'm highly doubtful about this for now. Just as a last point, it is rather telling that it has happened now, because of course everyone knows that the main enemy to this project has always been Britain. So the moment that the British are out of the equation, one goes ahead with this pet project. But this may indeed be another white elephant.
Well, they did actually offer to have Britain actually come into it if they wanted to pay to be part of it.
Oh, there you go. I paused it and started. You've got a minute left to answer that, Britt.
No, there's nothing. Yeah.
You're not going to answer that?
May I add one sentence to it?
Only if Britt's still got 49, 46, so he's still got time. It's only if he's ready to be done.
Go on, Weltschmerz.
I just want to say, I mean, a European army without the British is pretty much pointless, in my opinion.
Man, we got some good stuff going on out here in the chat. I just want some clarification from Alpha. If you could please clarify your question. I reshot it out to you. It says, I think you're saying, Brit, the talk in Hungary is that the new Byzantine, I think you mean, has 1,000 years to look forward to, whereas the Western Europe, and I just said, make this clear, because I would like to know a little bit more about that. I could bounce it off. I could use my time for that. But British, you have near a minute left.
The EU is the new Byzantium. Is that the argument?
It sure sounds like that. If you can see that in the outside chat. If not, I'll just say it one more time. Brit, the talk in Hungary is that the new Byzantine, that has 1,000 years to look forward to, whereas Western Europe, and then ... So yes, and you have, like I said, a minute. So speak to that, if you will. I think you're the only one here that can.
I don't know what the source of that is, but I mean that would kind of, to me, it would suggest that kind of Byzantium would therefore be the eastern part.
Yeah.
Which, given that one then says that the Western European part has no future, I think there would be several centuries of past history that would actually contradict that. I wouldn't really see what the advantage would be as such of being Eastern European over being Western European. Whereas Western European still holds all the geographical advantages when it comes to access to oceans and proximity to the United States. I really would need to know what the underlying argument for a rise of a new Byzantium in the East would be. Frankly, I can't see it.
Anybody want to speak to that? Or I think that actually common sense may have, and that was a good comeback to that question, Brett. So unless common sense, I think that you were ready to say something there. And if not, I've got a couple things here coming out of the chat that are pretty good. What's up, common sense?
Yeah, I've got one question to the panel mostly, but hopefully somebody can answer this as well. What is it that you need to become a nation? Do you need to have money that's going into you? You need to have a sitting government? You need to have borders? Do you need an army? And if so, does that mean that the European, after they have an army, would be classified as a nation?
Very quickly, I would just say this. That was great. It was 20 seconds. No, you don't need an army. We can look to Costa Rica. Right now, Costa Rica is a little country in Central America, has no army. They don't have a police force, as you and I would know. If you live there, it's not that you're on your own. There are some posses. There are some local policia that are a lot different than we would understand, that are there to, but there's no crime. People don't. So I would say this, governments project what they want. And unfortunately, the country I live in right now is a very authoritarian, enforce their own will kind of country. And as much as I'm patriotic, I love my country, well, I don't like that part of it. So no, you don't need a military, common sense. You don't need it. Maybe, I guess, to play my own devil's advocate, you would need it if you were a large country. It could be an argument made for it. But apparently, if you're Costa Rica, if you're Belize, you don't need it.
May I ask you a quick question then? What was your, bar it obviously not being an actual country, wasn't one of your main grapes about Catalonia being independent, not to go on a Catalonia point as it is, but as a point, wasn't it the fact that they didn't have their own army and they needed an army to be classified a nation? Wasn't that your own words?
No, it wasn't a gripe. It was only me saying that if they want to declare themselves independent, they need to be ready to defend themselves against even the country that they're declaring independence from, i.e., a certain tea party that happened in Boston, sir. You can't just throw the tea in the harbor and then tell the king to pound sand. He will send redcoats.
So what you're saying is that the Catalans should all dress as Frenchmen just in case it goes wrong, so that they've got deniability, like certain gentlemen in Boston Harbor.
No, they dressed up as Indians,
Precisely.
Native Americans. But yes, it would be very good.
But what I mean is Catalonia is next to France. So
yeah, you got it.
Dressing up as Indians wouldn't really do the trick in Catalonia, would it?
I got it. Throw them off the trail for sure. Yes. For sure. And look, folks, we can go on this. I mean, I actually do have a couple extra questions for the
I've
chat.
got one more question.
For me?
For panel.
Yeah, okay.
So if they don't need an army to be classified as a nation, so to speak, an independent nation by themselves, to make a nation, apparently you need your own currency, which is the euro. You need your state seal, which is the European Union. You've got your letterheads, which is fine. You've got your national anthem, which is Hallelujah. So, are they not already a nation? A super nation? The European Union? As I said, I'm not bothered about Catalonia. I was using that as an example.
You lads, go ahead.
Well, I wouldn't.
Do they have a people?
Sorry?
Do they have a people?
Yeah, they're people classified as European Union. That's why they're classified as European citizens.
Do they have a language?
Yes, they do.
Well, they have languages, but when I mean do they have a people, I mean do they actually have anybody who feels loyalty towards them?
It doesn't matter. What's on their passports, Brett? Are they classified as Latvian or are they classified as European citizen now? What?
Why doesn't that matter?
Why doesn't what matter?
Well, I said, do they actually have any people who feel loyalty towards them? And then you just said, doesn't matter.
You said it doesn't matter what's on their passport. Yeah, so why doesn't that matter?
Why doesn't it matter that there are no people who feel fealty towards the European Union?
If there was nobody that felt fealty towards the European Union, why is there a European government?
Yeah, but if I may take that, I would say because of pressure put on by bureaucrats that were promising people things that they wanted as if they were St. Nicholas. That's why.
But
there is no fealty. There's no fealty.
How do you create a nation without a people? And the thing is that the people feel German, the people feel Dutch, the people feel French, the people feel Italian. They do not feel European. If you wish to make them, I mean, yes, they may say that they they feel, you know, that they are Europeans. But would they go to war for Europe, or would they go to war for Italy? You know, to whom do they actually feel loyalty? And in that regard, I think Europe would be a nation without a people.
Common sense. And I've seen that your thing come off to stories, so pipe in, but let common sense rebut that.
I would have to disagree with that point, because people do classify themselves as European. I mean, if you I hate using this as a bloody example, but I will do. When you get people like Mark Zuckerberg that pull out statistics where they go, if you ask millennials, what country do they feel? What do they feel like? And they go, citizen of the world or citizen of the European Union. Does that not classify them as a people with the European Union by your definition?
Okay, but I mean, what kind of percentage are we looking at here? Because this is not the Europe I recognize.
No, that's fine. But your whole premise and point is, how many people does it start to be a nation? Where my point is, they have the money, they have the state, they have the letterheads, they have the national anthem. They already are a state.
I still don't. I still see them as rather a too loose a construct to be a nation. But I think the first and foremost thing that they are lacking would be a people.
And as I said,
I could let you boys go on. I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna officially call it a draw. Good points on both sides. And as I call it a draw, I want to admit I lean toward the Britisher side, but I couldn't be. I'm just gonna draw from the Britisher right now. I'm going to draw on his honesty and his impartiality and say, no, it's a wash on the debate. I don't, you know, we could go let y'all go on forever on this. I'm sure everybody could agree. We got other stories here. Only if we let Welchmer's story start it, because I knew that he had something to say and was cutting him off. So the only way you can make one more point if Welchmer has his say, I let you go ahead, and I will give deference to seniority and let the British have the final word on this, and I won't say a word and then move on to the next story. So crack on, Welchmer's common sense, and then Brett.
I think that patriotism is an important question, and of course I feel like I'm a European, but I mean, if Germany gets attacked by whatever country, I would defend it. Wouldn't be a question. But if, for example, the European army would decide to fight against the Catalonians, I wouldn't. I don't feel as much European to say, okay, I fight against Catalonia. On the other hand, if Europe as a whole would be attacked from a power outside, I would defend it as well. So I think it is very important what people think about it and how much patriotism they have. But at the same time, we must see that well, the Brexit, 50% of the British were against Europe. And if you would have the same question asked in all the European countries, I guess you would be surprised, because I don't think that the British are exceptional at this point. I think.
I'm sorry. We had some interruption there in the frequency. I thought you were saying something. Carry on there, sir. The last part there was garbled. We'll leave it at that. What was that?
He meant exception, not exceptional. He meant exception.
Yeah. I think that many people in the European Union would vote for their country to leave the European Union. Yeah, maybe it's not 50%, maybe it's only 45%, but still, I mean, that's a huge percentage. Yeah, maybe we have only 30% in Germany. All right. Yeah, but then you have like 60% in Italy and 50% in France. So that there is some truth to it. We need this patriotism in Europe, and we don't have it.
All right, thank you. What I'm going to do is, because this is obviously, we can talk about this all night, boys, but nope. So common sense, and then I'm going to let the Britisher put a cherry on it. Please say what you want, common sense, in a minute, because when the Britisher's done with his minute, nope, no more rebuttals.
No, that's fine. WikiHow, it says how to start your own country. And that means that you need your own money, you need your own state seal, you need your own letterhead, you need your own national anthem. Doesn't say anything about do you need your people to be patriotic or loyalty towards that new nation. Doesn't say anything about that at all. Also says that all you need is to have a set of laws, which they have. They have a constitution, the European constitution as well. That's why the European Court of Justice is there. That's the reason why we're ratifying everything in our amendment and our leaving bill. So I just wanted to put that into that. It's just a case of building your nation. All you basically need is your flag, you need your money, which they all have, you need your constitution, you need your seal. You don't need people to follow your actual nation itself to become a nation. Maybe to fight for you, you do, but not to become a nation. And that's why I say it's already a nation.
All right, Britisher. Well, that was perfect. That was actually perfect.
Well, I don't have anything to add, which I haven't already said. So
Beautiful.
I think we can leave it at that.
You want to know
Yeah,
something, Brett? Can I tell you the truth, Britisher?
Go ahead.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that you were going to be like, nope, said it all. So I noticed, and I do believe if I'm trying to get in my head, I should have took notes as I've taken on but I didn't take notes before the show. I do think this is going to go right to Welsh Spirit Stories. We're going to talk about this for a second. Something funny I found in the news today. They found a long-lost Da Vinci painting, and without me going off on a tangent about it, Welsh Spirit Stories, apparently it's expected to fetch, as they say, fetch, like a dog fetching a bone as if it's nothing. $100 million at auction. What do you think about this? And that, I mean, isn't it great? A, that they've found, someone has found the Da Vinci, and B, how wonderful is it that some very wealthy bourgeoisie jackass is going to spend $100 million and hang it in their house?
I mean, yeah, for me, it's a completely ridiculous amount of money, an imaginable amount of money. But that is kind of the proof how desperate these rich people are to spend their money. I mean, we have so much money, like currency on the planet to buy the whole planet 2.5, 3 times. So yeah, they don't know where to go with their money, and they buy every crap, whatever it is. I don't want to say that the Da Vinci is crap, but yeah, the price is just ridiculous, and we see it all over the place. I mean, every auction has his new records, like a new Ferrari, an old Ferrari is sold for 50 million, and yeah, then this painting 100 million. They are desperate. They don't know what to buy.
Well, if I may just cut in, I think there is a reason why it's worth 100 million, and it has something to do with what Welschmerz said, with them buying crap. And the reason is, if a cow that's been sawn in half and is stored in formaldehyde, if that is worth 20 million, then a Da Vinci must be worth 100 million. And I think one of the problems we're seeing here is the sort of hyperinflation that we've seen in modern art, which then means that, dare I say it, real art needs to be more expensive than that. And therefore you're getting now into sort of, fantasy prices. And I think, yes, it basically boils down to the fact that we have elevated what is actually worthless to be, priceless art, that therefore makes it almost necessary to the real art then to be absolutely, spectacular in price. But yes, if it more than likely, if it wasn't for the Germans and the Americans, we wouldn't be suffering this plague of modern art to the extent we are. And yes, I'm afraid it's now just part of the culture. But that basically pushes up the price of old masters into the spectacular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
I'd just like to add to British's point. If you've got a football clubs, for instance, that are buying players for over 100 and something million pound, and then you have something that is everlasting as a Leonardo da Vinci, and you've got people that are fighting over it. Remember, it wasn't just one person going, "Yeah, I'll bid £1 million on it." This was a collection of people that were bidding on it, and what people do with their own money, and which it was their own money, do is up to them. It's their accumulated wealth. It's their wealth. If they want to spend £100 million on a painting, whether you think the painting is worth it or not, it's up to them what they do with it, not us. Now, if their money is to do with government, then yeah, you have an argument, and I'll agree with you. They shouldn't be spending it on there. But if it's their own private money, you have no business in telling somebody what they can and cannot do with their money. That's just my point on that one.
To be honest, I don't think either of us has really been saying what they can or cannot do with their money.
No, I didn't say either of you did. It was just my point and my point of view on it.
Okay.
No, that was good, and you had time left on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, because Welchman's story started us out, I'm going to let him not wrap us up. I'll wrap us up on this. But we already agreed. We're not going to take
if I just may interject, I am intrigued that nobody has pulled me up yet on blaming it on the Americans and Germans. But please go on.
I've heard it all. I heard everything you said. I mean, I just know that we agreed on a certain amount of time on this, so I'm trying to stick to it, British. I'm just trying to look at the notes. So I'll still do that. No, I heard it. So Welsh Merits, one last chance, and then I'll wrap it up.
No, I mean, what can I say? I mean, much of these modern art stuff is surely rubbish. I would agree with the British, but there's a lot of modern art I can use more. I think it's more valuable than this old painting stuff, and I can't do much with Mr. Da Vinci. I like, for example, the British gentleman, Mr. Banksy. I like him way more than. But that is a matter of personal taste. But yeah, for me, the price tag, that is the ridiculous part of it.
May I ask a question?
Yep, quickly. You'll be stepping on my time as I'm starting my time now, and I only got 2 minutes.
Yeah. If you like Banksy, would you go into an auction house to bid on one?
If I have the money, yes, sure.
Yeah,
all right,
no point.
Asked and answered. So I'm just going to say this very quickly. One thing, yeah, great point, 058. Scarcity has a lot to do with a lot of things, but I want to point out this, and I'd started my time. I'm going to give myself 2 minutes on this too, but I titled the stream after this, and it almost got shot down. If Welsh Stories wasn't here, I couldn't even have claimed 50-50, because I think it was just barely my co-host that wanted to talk about this. That doesn't say anything bad about him. I'm just saying that, look, there are few Da Vincis in the world. Sometimes someone may come to you and have a piece of wisdom for you. You might not like the messenger. Don't judge the messenger. Don't do it. Don't rob yourself of that wisdom. If we were not to value this painting at $100 million, we would be discounting the messenger in the worst of ways. We need to remember that it's the art, yes, but there's two different things here juxtaposed. There's things that come from the cosmic good, advice from friend to friend, good old sayings, good things that we do, cultural norms, the wonderful ways that we have to make sure that our daughters grow up to be good women and our sons grow up to be good men. And we have to put a high price on those abstract things, but we do. In this way, and this is it. I'm looking at this. I could have took an hour on this. But in this instance, we have to remember it's Leonardo da Vinci. It's not only rare, it's art from a master. It wouldn't matter to me if it was him drawing an outhouse. That was it for me. Yeah, so is that the end of this? I don't even remember, and I'm not the boss of anybody. Is this it, boys? Are we got anything else to say on this, or can we go move on to the last thing? I can't believe I made it through this whole deal. Don't feel the greatest today. Just another miserable, rainy Michigan day.
Well, I think we've got 2 more points, haven't we?
That I see. I thought that we were on to Da Vinci and then the oh yes, we do. We actually do. We have 2 more points. Yeah. Because I forgot about the 5th. So the 4th, who wants to take this? I actually I looked this when I seen this story, boys, when I read this story today, I did not think it was true. So what I'll do is I'll I'm not even going to pick a name. I'm just going to give everybody 4 minutes, and should be plenty of time. I doubt anybody will go 4 minutes. And I'll let whoever jumps in first on this go, and we'll take it from there. When they're done, whoever gets their jump in first will go. And I'll just have a minute or two on this myself. So it says, global climate action must be gender equal. Women bear the heaviest brunt of global warming. All right, let me. Okay.
Why do they fluctuate the money?
Hang on. Let me just get through this because I'm not going to try to even read the article. I got through the headline. Obviously, I can't get through the bloody blurb. You know that. So let me get through the blurb, and I'll cut y'all loose on it. And and the common sense guy already won, so he'll go first. Women bear the heaviest brunt of global warming and are less empowered to contribute to solutions. A new action plan agreed at the Bonn climate talks aims to reverse this inequality, writes Heidi Crazy Woman, Marshall Island president. So there you go, boys. I don't know if I can get through much of this article. You get the gist of it, common sense.
Yeah. First of all, how are you doing, Mr. Bond? Welcome to the Bond Summit. But carrying on. I don't see how climate change is a gendered issue, not unless you're going to say that they fart more or because they use their hairsprays more, that they should cut that out. I just don't understand on that point. Why is it gendered? Surely it's a humanitarian thing. To be fair, I don't really have much on this. It's just like, how could you make that gendered when it's just gone for me. I just can't. It's just something that you just can't genderize. Somebody save me, Britisher. Save me, please.
No, so let me ask this as I pass it on and give you one chance to answer this question. Is this, because this is hilarious. We'll crack jokes through it. Believe me, that was, you had me. That's good. It's funny. This is all funny. But is this just another example of there is nothing else to fight in our world? I don't mean in the Middle East where they got to wear burqas and got to be 35 to drive a car now. They just let them do it last week. No kidding, like last month, whenever it was. Is this just another example of that? Nothing left to fight.
I suppose you could argue the point that there's always something worth fighting for, but this, I don't think this is an actual gendered issue. I can't see it. So the fact that they honestly think that this is a gendered issue shows you that there isn't too much, if anything, there is worth fighting for on a gendered issue. I mean, some people would say there's a pay gap. There isn't a pay gap. It's been debunked countless times. Some people would say that there's lots of other problems. It's like what Ogre was trying to say. In our Western civilization or Western culture, European culture or American culture, it seems that there isn't too much that anybody can really fight for anymore, apart from obviously not using too much hairspray because you're destroying the ozone layer, or to the point of the air conditioning's too cold. It's like those type of things is just how does that even become an issue? Where people are dying in Africa because there's no bloody food, when people are dying in India because there's floods. How are they issues? My air conditioning is too cold. I just don't see that. I'm sorry. If you're going to talk about a gendered issue, go talk about female mutilation and stuff like that. Go talk about things that actually matter, not, yeah, global warming is a gendered issue. No, it's not. It's a humanitarian issue. Get over it. Get on with it.
Way to steer the conversation. So you lads, whoever wants next.
Yeah, I have the impression that the whole feminist train is losing steam massively lately, and that these guys only want to have the feminists jump on board the next train, the climate change train, and that is basically it. I mean, to claim that it is climate change is somehow different for a man and female, that's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, I have the feeling they're fighting for an audience. That is it.
So are you seeing this as a sort of attempt at creating a sort of intersectional environmentalism?
Yes, yes.
When it's effectively trying to bond together two things which just won't glue.
Yeah, yeah.
That could well be. As I say, I am pretty much speechless regarding this subject. It is so utterly bizarre that I don't even. It just doesn't compute. I honestly don't know how to even respond to this.
When I think of intersectional feminism and all this whole 9 yards, and yeah, you can jump in here too, stories, but yeah, again, we got this fun.
I was just about to make a joke and say, like, women always claim it's too cold, so they should appreciate the climate change.
Yeah. Well, now, oh, you just knocked me. You knocked the thought right out of my head. It must not have been that intellectual, or I would have remembered it, right? No, actually.
Before you carry on, Ogre, can I just point out, because you haven't read in the side chat, can you have a look at your DMs?
Yeah, I will, but I'll also say, apparently Mad Dodge Production was saying that I went a little quick on that last one. So if I cut anybody off here on the topic, which was the EU Army, let me know, boys, and we can always, anybody here, of course, can say what they want if they feel like they were knocked off. So yeah, I can see my DMs. Oh, from yourself, Common Sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So London student march calls for the rich to be taxed to fund free education. Yeah, the math on that works out to just be a very short time.
Yeah, it was more to do with the second paragraph. It is supported by Labour. It's organised by Labour.
All right. Oh, look at that. We got another super chat. Thank you very much. He is Count Dankula. That's the only thing they said, boys. He is Count Dankula. And that's Point Creation. Thank you so much. Another
if it's good enough for the prosecution, it's good enough for us.
and Britisher Common Sense, this is another multiple donor. I've recognized the name. This is a person that, in fact, gentlemen, this is a person that has donated to you lot when it was just me there at the Cyber Pass spouting off whatever crazy stuff I was at the time. So it's kind of cool to see him back with us all here. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, you know what? London students. So what was this? London student march calls for rich to be taxed and to fund for. Look, if we talk about, here's the deal. We can, in the United States, we can only, we can't really afford, we have 360 million people here. We can do one of two things for sure. We can help the world with their kill the bad guy thing. Or we can fund what we would call our NHS for, I think it's 2 years. I've seen the facts are this. You could take the 1%, Bernie Sanders, the 1%, equal pay, the wage, the gender gap. Bernie Sanders, crazy Bernie. You could take the 1%, strip them of everything they have. It would fund an NHS in our country for, I believe they said it's a year, might be 2. It's not very long. And then that money would be gone. Then who would you steal the money from? So I don't know. All this stuff, when I see this riches to free education, look, there is a reason, boys, and this isn't on the agenda, but this is something that's close to home. I don't know if I should have been in school after the fact. I weaseled my way in because I found what I was good at, and I could get good grades at this one thing. Now, if you would have taken me into a room and given me an aptitude test that strictly focused on math, they would have thrown me out of a community college before you could say boo. But because, I don't know, I was pretty good with words and with some other things, I guess, and I was able to. So I don't know. I'm not even defending myself is what I'm saying. Free education for all. There's a reason why 14% of society, Britisher, for the time immemorial, and I'm bringing this up because I know I think you said a little bit, I'm not going to be too personal, Brett, but you maybe should have went to university. That's why it brought me up. Because when I think about it, I would right now, if given the choice right now with what I know, and I think by now I would have been able to educate myself on the things I love anyway. I'd play the guitar, I would do the things I do. I would know what I know. I would rather give the education that I had to you, to someone that would have been more useful to society with an education where it made no difference in my life. So anyway, boom, that was a long way around. I didn't even start my timer. I didn't hear a bell from the Brit, but I'm done. Pay for everyone's education? No, not in a free world. For everyone's health care, Brits? No, not in a free world. No, you pay for your own. You take care of your own people. You get your own education. You take care of your own health care. You don't go and steal from someone else to give to someone else. Now, that said, Welsh spirits, before I cut you loose, and you also shouldn't make policy that makes it easy for the wealthy Welsh spirits. I know you're going to jump in on this and be like, oh, well, they're rich and they got all this money. Yes, they do, but there's reasons. Just don't give them all these incentives and all these whatever it is that makes their life easier when it comes to legislation. Period. Full stop, I meant, Englishman. Oh God, is my microphone broken? Is it broken? Is it busted? Hello?
No, we heard you. We heard you.
I think we just didn't know where we were going next. So
okay.
have we finished with the Crazies Unite? I think we haven't really got much more to say there, have we?
I hope so. Yeah.
Shall we move on to the devastating news that the world of sport has witnessed something which we didn't really believe we were going to see, and that is that. And of course, this is where all the Americans now begin to wince, because this regards football, but we're going to try and broaden it out as best we can.
Suck it up. We always talk about American stuff. That's why the British took over. It's a time for a little bit of European.
The news in this case is that the Italians are not going to be going to the Football World Cup.
Ole, 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 ole.
Because shock horror, they were actually knocked out by Sweden, that being this mighty footballing nation that is Sweden, actually knocked out Italy. The reason this is actually significant is, for one, the entire Italian nation is heartbroken, if not even slightly ashamed. But also one needs to remember that in actual viewing number terms, the Football World Cup is actually the biggest sporting event on earth. So, when people are going on about, Super Bowls or even the Olympic Games, it's all dwarfed by the Football World Cup. It's by far and away the most viewed sporting spectacle.
Oh, yeah, they pack so many people in the arenas, they crush each other to death.
But of course, the reason it is significant that the Italians, the reason we're bringing this up really is because the Italians, they have won the World Cup 4 times, I believe. They have been in the final 6 times. Now, if you consider that this is an event that happens every 4 years, it gives you an idea of what kind of time span of dominance we're looking at here. Also, I think they've been continually in the World Cup since 1958. So they've qualified every single time since then. So everyone was somewhat surprised because no one can quite imagine this sporting competition without Italy. And therefore we were kind of, wondering, what other kind of things, what kind of parallels would there be? So I suggested, for example, that it may be the same thing as an Olympic Games 100-meter final without any American runner. That might be the way in which to get American listeners to appreciate just how shocking this is, that the Italians, who really are one of the foremost nations in football, I won't tell you who the others are because I've got the feeling someone in a moon suit is going to be very keen to tell us.
Wait for me. I'm having technical difficulties.
So, yes, I think we're sort of trying to get across just how big a shock this actually is, that one of the sort of foremost nations suddenly should not qualify, should suddenly not come up to muster. So if anyone wants to jump in and save me here before I drown.
Yeah, no, I'll come in. As well, you have to look at it from the fact of Italy generally do quite well in most international competitions. So think of it like this way. For whenever England are playing, for instance, we'll do it like this. When England start past the group phases, the pubs start to fill up. Or the clubs, the bars, whatever you want to call it. Somewhere where the football's going to be on or the soccer's going to be on. And that's exactly the same in Italy. You have so many little cafes where AC Milan supporters, Inter Milan supporters, which are rival clubs, will go into the same pubs, start watching all of the games and everything else like that, and drink merrily and actually get on for a change. It's very hard to explain the sense of camaraderie or the sense of nationalism that comes from watching your team in international games. It really does add to the point of what's the right word? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
Well, all I can ask in that case is, does the European Union have a football team? If not, I win.
You win. You win on that one. You win on that one. But they do have a cup competition, so...
It was a cheap shot, I agree, yes. I just couldn't resist.
No, it was funny. That's all that counts.
Yeah, I can't argue that point.
Look, Ogre.
Oh, no, I just had some technical difficulties. I had to break out some other headphones. I didn't know what was going on. No, I mean, it's just a hat. I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah, the fact of...
I feel too much like Joe Rogan with the shaved head. It's just, Joe Rogan with a beard. And please tell your friends so that we can have as many subs as Joe.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
The biggest podcast on earth. And we don't judge it by that.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about sport, you could volunteer to be the Joe Rogan substitute. So should he kind of pull a muscle, you can kind of step in.
Well, I could, on what he does, I do know enough about MMA that I would toot my own horn and say I'm colorful enough. I could easily do color commentary for UFC. If you put me with like Goldblum, the guy he was with in the old days, I think he's still with Goldblum. No, it would work the same way because I know the holds, and stuff to that effect, it is what it is.
Before he was famous, he was some kind of wrestler or a wrestling commentator or something like that, was he?
Joe Rogan?
Yes.
No, he was a comedian. He was on radio. What was it called? Oh my goodness! He was on a sitcom in the U.S. Somebody will tell me here, hopefully in the side chat.
Because
News Radio. He was on News Radio with Phil Hartman and a few other people, David Spade, and he was a comedian. I never got his comedy. He was George Carlin without the cussing. He had like a routine, extremely planned, where you knew he wrote out every word and memorized it. Some people love that kind of comedy. Myself, I don't. And that was Joe Rogan. But he got famous because I would say the main thing that catapulted him into what made him super famous was the UFC. Because he went from there to he was a commentator after when the Zufas bought UFC from the Gracies. And like 19
UFC being
Ultimate Fighting Championship,
okay.
The Octagon fighting with
Conor McGregor.
Yeah, that kind of. I mean, I don't know if the Brit would even know that. Britishers like myself, it took me a while, Britt, not maybe as long as you, because it doesn't sound like it's happened yet. But to go from boxing, it's tough when you're used to the sweet science, which I do know you know a lot about. It's tough to go to something else. Because they can say what they want about, oh, well, you put him in a ring and the boxer. Yes, put the guy in the octagon in with the boxer. We just saw it with Conor McGregor. And I think it was just publicity anyway, common sense. But, oh, good gracious, where are we going with this? Yeah, I'm sorry, Mad Dodge, if we skipped off on something else. We didn't mean to. And here's the thing. We're getting now. What is it, boys? What we basically have is 30 more minutes total.
Yes, but I think we desperately need to rope it back into the subject we were talking about, because otherwise Weltschmerz is never going to forgive us for denying him the chance to gloat, which I've got the feeling is going to come, and we're going to get it big here.
Oh no! I mean, what can I say? At first, I'm really sorry for the Italians. I mean, who can we kick out the World Championship in the semifinals now? So that is a real problem for Germany. And yeah, I mean, for Germany, this would be like really unimaginable. I mean, you all remember the riots on the G20 summit. And I think if Germany would miss the World Cup, every city would look like this. I think we would riot in the streets as long as the European Union would kick us out. I mean, that is simply not imaginable that such a tragedy could happen. So yeah.
You mean to say that Germany being defeated in the qualifiers, so much so that they wouldn't be able to qualify for the World Cup, might spell the end of the European Union?
I would say so, yeah.
Because
yeah, definitely. I would bet on it.
I can see Nigel Farage already purchasing steroids and performance-enhancing drugs en masse in order to sell it to whoever the next opponents of Germany will be.
Exactly, and cancelling rugby and cricket right away, that there's only football in England. Yeah. Yeah.
But to the Americans listening, I must try and explain here that there are 3 nations without whom the World Cup competition is really unimaginable. The first one, in all fairness, must be Brazil. They tend to be the most beloved team.
Definitely, yeah.
The other are the Italians, because watching them play is like watching 11 men who have escaped from an Armani catalogue run around to Italian opera music.
And they play really badly, and they still win from time to time. That's unimaginable. I mean,
they're unbelievably good at defense. That's their skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there is some other minor nation who tend to play in white shirts and black shorts, who have won 1 or 2 things. Or should I just be honest and admit to the fact that yes, the Germans have got a terrifying record when it comes to football. I did hear you, Common Sense, and I know that you're trying to make a patriotic point here, but I think honesty kind of demands that we kind of admit to the fact that we've won the World Cup once with England. And that the Germans...
Sorry, I'm going to have to do a Jency Quinn. I'm going to have to do a Jency Quinn.
Germans, I think, have done it 5 times. So I think that's... Yes. Please, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a Jency Quinn. 1 World Cup, 2 World Wars, do-do-do-do-do. 1 World Cup, 2 World Wars, do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah, our favorite hobby, yeah. I understand that.
Well, we are quite frequently the nation that gets the honor of fielding the referee in the final.
Yeah, yeah.
Due to the fact that yes, our team, tends to say that it has done well if it reaches the quarterfinals. But yes, no, when it comes to these sporting things, I mean, Olga, perhaps you can help us on this. I mean, what has as big a reach, as all encompassing in the United States that could be compared to the national teams at football? I mean, what basically gets this sort of passion going among the nations?
You can't do that. You have to go regional. So if you were in the south east, you'd say NASCAR. If you were in the northeast, you'd say baseball. If you were in the Midwest, you'd say football. If you were out west, oh man, it would probably be a giant conglomerate of what I just mentioned. So I would have to say overall, if I had to pick one, because we just don't have that thing. That's why I said it like that. We don't have that thing like soccer is over there. We don't have it. Well, because if I had to pick one, it'd be baseball.
Coming to think of it, I think there have been some moments, haven't there? I mean, there was that one big moment, I forget which Winter Olympics it was, but where the
1984, the Miracle on Ice.
The US won at ice hockey against the Soviets.
Oh my goodness, point creation. Thank you so much. Stretch Armstrong had a big reach.
It was one of the it was one of the sporting events as far as the US were concerned, wasn't it?
Yeah, Stretch Armstrong had a big reach. That's just, I'm sorry. Thank you not only for the super chat, but for the funny joke. You could have just cracked the joke and I would have noticed it in the chat.
But of course, perhaps in order to give you an idea of how the Italians must feel right now, there, of course, was another incident at the Olympics. This was the Summer Olympics, I believe, where the Soviets actually beat the Americans at basketball.
They were on steroids and cheated. Yeah, what was that? That was like 89, man, where they...
Sorry.
Yeah, that was the proper response. That was like 1989. Somewhere
is that from your knowledge?
Oh Lord, that's what everybody here will tell you, Britisher.
Is that what the Italians have been saying about the Swedes?
Oh, I don't know about that. But
or have the Italians been somewhat more gracious?
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the Italians too, and listen. The only thing I can throw in with the football thing, it's hard for me to not even say soccer. Back there, Mrs. Ogre can hear you all, but it's blocked off. I got it blocked off so she can hear y'all where she is, but I can't only through this. So anyway, I'm back there. She's like, "Yo, talking about soccer." I was like, I don't know what the hell to say. I gotta say this though. When I was in military school, I almost said the name of the academy. When I was in academy, boys' academy, a great school, excellent. Ivy on the building. Man, I was so privileged to go there. It was hell for me at the time, but looking back, man, oh my goodness, Lord knows, I'd probably be in prison if I hadn't went there. But so we had a nice game room, beautiful game room, and if we did well, for an hour a day, we could go to downstairs to this one spot we had. And it was usually way more than an hour, but that was supposed to be what it was. It usually ended up being 2.5 hours. And we had these video games. We had Pac-Man, and we had a soccer game, you Brits and you Germans. And it was like what you could pick Brazil. I heard you say Brazil, Brett. Everybody wanted to pick Brazil because this was 1988, 89, and 90, I want to say. Yeah, I'd have to look at it. I'm pretty sure. And even then, man, that was the best team. You had little advantages, and it wasn't. Nobody's just thinking like luck because you got to pick Brazil. No, it wasn't. They were the best. And so anyway, I like soccer, and it's drifted off over into our country. But it's funny to me how the little things like that. Like I didn't know why Brazil was the best. Don't get me wrong, I had no idea. But now I know because y'all were like, "Ooh, Brazil, British." You said Brazil's always in there. They must have been in there since the late 80s because that's when
you see when it comes to Brazil and whatever, in a way they are an example of what lies ahead for mankind with the rise of robotics and artificial intelligence, because you've got the humans, as in the Brazilians, with all their artistry and all their invention and all their creativity. But in the end, they still get trumped by the devastating records of the robots from Germany, who just defeat them with sheer efficiency.
And what? What was the last game Germany against Brazil? Was it 7-1? Was it?
Good God!
I just said
did that really happen?
Yeah.
Last World Cup, semi-final 7-1. Goodbye.
Oh, yes, I remember.
In Brazil,
yes, in Brazil. Yes, it was an absolute humiliation, if I remember. So yes, this is what I mean. That if you let the robots loose, who just basically play, their percentages, they play efficiently, they play, then all the creativity in the world is just smashed to pieces and goes home in humiliation.
Man, you said robots. It makes me want to end it. I may ask Weltschmidt's story as a crazy question, Brett, right before we're ready to go off, and let you all have a little time to. I probably will, but for very quickly, it's just I see this. I want to say that I haven't looked it up, but 058 knows his stuff, Britisher and Common Sense guy, and I'm going to say that it was 1980 Olympics where with the Miracle on Ice and. United States. And the funny thing is, nobody in the United States is like, well, the Americans were on steroids because it was unreal. But boy, I tell you, I will go back to that basketball. It's still today. It's like O.J. Simpson was not guilty. It's like one of those urban legends that happens in the United States that is so unreal, but yet people believe it. Mm-hmm. Like, the Russians were all on drugs when they whatever. Yeah, lads. So what I wanted to say too, boys, is what else we got to say on this? But man, I can't believe I made it this far, boys. If it wasn't, can you see the dark circles under my eyes? I didn't bother to put my glasses on because I wouldn't even be able to see the bloody screen. They're like blurry. I've not been feeling good. But I thought about the common sense guy, and I'll say this: the only way I'll cancel the show when it's on, I know y'all are dependent for it to be on this channel, is if I have a migraine. And then all bets are off, common sense. When that time, I mean, if I get it, because I get them once in a while. When I get them, it's no, man. I go in my bed. I put a cool cloth on my head with an ice bucket next to me and a bucket to, you know what, and that's the only thing I do. And but anyway. So what's last words, boys? We're getting close. We're getting nigh on 2 hours, gentlemen. And so, yeah, football. Are y'all done? Because I feel so stupid, Brett. What the hell? I don't know. I tried to pipe in. What am I going to say about football? I don't know. I don't even know. I couldn't name 10 teams. Well, I guess if I started naming countries, but I'd only be getting lucky because it just so happened to be that the country I named had a football team. I don't freaking know nothing about it, man. To be fair, boys, I don't give a crap about football either. I also couldn't name 8 American football teams except for getting lucky by saying like, ooh, well, I know like Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, the Packers, the Vikings. Ooh, what is it?
Dolphins.
Yeah, the Dolphins, Miami Dolphins. And but you see, I'm not even joking. I'm getting at the end of there's the New England Patriots. They used to be the Boston Patriots. But that's like that's yeah. So there it is, man. I don't know. To me, Britt, I'm addressing this to you too, Mr. Bring Up Rome. Every stream, you did it today too. You did it. You kind of shut stories down with it. He made a comment. So to me, it's bread and circus, man. Why would I want to promote? And yes, soccer, if anything, soccer's a test of endurance. But why would I ever promote anything like American football or rugby where people actually get hurt for life for nothing? I can't do it. Stupid. And they pay them, the people in our country, they pay them so good. This is where I will be like Wellsmere Stories. It makes me ill to think that somebody is making millions, not single, millions, 10, 20, 30 million dollars a year.
Well, in all fairness, in that case, you best also never watch football because I think they're even better paid.
I hate football. You mean American football or soccer?
Soccer.
Neymar was just sold from a Spanish club to a French club for 220 millions.
Oh my goodness, 220. Well, I'll say this though, boys. Soccer and hockey are similar to me. I love to watch the highlight reels because when they condense the soccer match down to driving, when they act, it is exciting. But to sit there and watch an entire game of three parts of the hockey and the 2 halves of no, man, I ain't sitting through that soccer shit, man. I got stuff to do. I got to make a show map 3 days a week. I know the boys, they think it's nothing, but shit, I'm looking at like 25 different news sources. I got shit to do. And it's not watch sweaty men slap each other on the ass and give each other fellatio in the locker room after they count their millions. That's not it. Sorry, that was probably carried away, boys, but that's how I feel about it.
No, it's fine. There is one thing I'd like to point out I kind of completely forgot. And that was when you have countries that go into these World Cups and these European Championships, if they get past the group stages, which is just a bit after the qualifiers, they go into a group of around 4 to 6, depending on what cup you're going to. And if they get past that and they start going to the last 32 and the last 16, those countries will generally shit tons of money. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but they normally earn quite a lot of money, not from the country actually playing, but for the fact that the men that are watching or the women that are watching as well, people that are supporting their country will go out to bars and drink heavily. And that's in almost every country. And I'm sure Welch will back me up on this one as well, where everybody will go out and drink and they will enjoy themselves. And generally the country, if the country does well in the World Cup, will spend money, a lot of money. Doesn't matter even if they're in the country, like the cup's in the country. If England were watching the Brazilians, as in the cup was in Brazil, and England got into the semi-finals, you can guarantee people would take days off work to go and sit in the pub and watch it with their mates. There's stories about it all the way through, and it goes through most countries.
Yeah, take days off work, and we're off the rails. And hey, look, this is basically. I don't even think he's here anymore. This is basically for Mad Dodge Productions because I'm just letting it flow, and this is fun too. But Britisher, you would be able to. Here. You know, somebody thought they would get me, but I've got. In fact, any of you boys. Ogre needs to explain offside rule. So because I have three wonderful, well, two co-hosts and a guest here, what's the offside rule, boys? And we'll consider that it's me.
Do you want to take that one, Watchmates?
I can if you like, but your English
go
is
ahead,
better.
All right. Go ahead.
That is basically if you have one person of your team standing closest to the goal. And then you pass the ball over to him, and then that is it. You're not allowed to do it. The person closest to the enemy's goal must be from the other team. Otherwise, you can't shoot the ball over.
Oh, okay. Explain that in English, common sense.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not basic. That's not really it. Basically, you have defenders on the opposition team. And normally they do a line at the back. So whether they're in a line of a 3, a line of a 4, or a line of a 5 players. Now, if you have one of your opposition strikers that's level with those players and the ball is played while that player is level, that will not be offside. But if that player is past that line towards our goal, as in the goal that's being, as in the opposition's goal. So the defenders, then you have the striker going past the defenders. If that ball is played when the striker is past the defenders, then you're offside. That's pretty much it.
Was that better? Was that better of an explanation?
No, I still have no idea what the hell he just said. No clue. No, I won't lie. So I did think it maybe was your accent, but after hearing it explained again, much the same way with just an English accent, no, I have no idea what he said. It's something. I think that we have a similar rule. When I played football, American football, we used to. Okay, when you're out there on the field and you're on the offensive, so you have some people trying to make a goal against you. It's hard to count the number of people on the field. And oh Lord, now I'm going to show how long it's been since I played football. I think it's 12. What we would do is we would line. I never was the guy. Trevor Adcock was one of our main guys. We would have one less behind the line of scrimmage and the other one just out of bounds, way down by the goal line. As long as he waited till the ball was snapped to put his foot on the field, then we had the right number of people. He wasn't an extra person. We had one less back there, and they were counting on them not counting. And then you could do a nice pass to him, and they wouldn't even know he was supposed to be there. And we did that. That was called an onside kick. Now I can't even remember what that was called. If somebody can remember what I just described was called, it's American in the side that watches bloody American football, which I haven't watched or played in 20 years. Yeah, if not. I'm telling you, this is what I think. They should take every football player, American or otherwise, every NASCAR driver, every one of them that doesn't want to go get an honest job, line them up and see how many they can take down with a 7.62 Kalashnikov round at once and just keep shooting them down. And then take all that money. Here's where we kick in, Welchmere, to see it. This might be for different reasons. But this is where I see a tremendous waste and ridiculous. And then we should take all the gasoline that they put in the NASCARs and all the tires they put on them. Do something nice with them. And forget about the bread and circus. Britisher knows. There you go, Britt. That's like the second time I mentioned bread and circus because that's my favorite part of reference to your beloved Rome. It's how they would take and make the crowd facile. They would make the mob facile, just no worries. By saying, so I'm this terrible person that wants to put up list. Oh, free bread. Come and watch the slaughter. Yeah, man. bollocks.
It's a
Hey, I
great
like
way
that
of
too.
actually doing it, though.
You think you're the bollocks, but you're a cunt. It's that thing, man. The whole I can't believe this dude is a look. I don't want to break it. I better shut up now. I'm gonna hear the bell. I didn't think the Brit has one, but I bet if I say the wrong thing, I'll hear ding 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 ding. It'll be like.
I don't think you'll be able to get that out at the moment. But as you
No,
were
because
saying,
he seems to be dead.
I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's dead.
No, I'm sure he's not. But this is it, boys. As we're coming down to the end, I can tell that it's not just this. We're going 2 hours. We definitely, for one thing, I said we would never go over another hour, and we don't got another hour in us. I believe we touched on all these subjects well. Common Sense Guy, you're the low man on the totem pole, man. Give us a wrap up.
I don't think so. I'm even lower than Walt Smith Stories at the moment.
No, he don't count, dude. He doesn't count. I didn't even figure him into the equation. He's a guest. So I would like to give you a chance to anything we talked about, and then what we'll do is when you're done giving your, because I don't know, we touched on a lot of things tonight. There might be one last thing that you will say that will spark off a little more conversation. It might not. Who knows? And then after you're done with this, what I want to do is I'm trying to prime you. I want to prime you. Because look, man, I love doing. Somebody said I love being the moderator. I do, but if anybody watches what happens with the Britisher and I in this, you can see on the nights that it's on his channel, as where we are all equal. I'll be the first one to scream that. Everybody here knows that. It's still when you get this certain feeling of, in the end, it is we're here. You know, it has nothing to do with input or what we're going to do. It just has to do with so what I'm saying is we should start once. I mean, there's 3 days a week we do this. So it only seems logical to me that we would go, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and each one of us would be assigned a certain day and have it on our specific channel. Not only would it help grow each one of our channels, it's Britishers help me so much, man. I'm telling you, you'd see it too. It'd help you. But it's just also, it takes this is so you know I'm not just a glory hound. The Britisher will tell him, Brett, it's not all roses and wine and roses when it's on your channel. I mean, you have that extra feeling of this is here where ultimately my name rides on the marquee. If that didn't get him, he's probably there.
I definitely know that. And I've always respected everybody that's always done this, especially yourself and Britisher, and obviously you do it twice a week.
So we'll give you till like next year. We'll give you till January, February, and then figure out, get your stuff together.
I wonder why that is. Could that be the reason why I've got a community strike against me at the moment?
You have a community strike?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've told you about it before. It's to do with the Eminem video.
Oh, I guess you did. You know, the thing of it is, Common Sense, is that for your videos, it was so stunning that it won't sink in now. You'll say it again like 2 weeks from now. I'll be like, you got a community strike? Because it doesn't make sense. It just, for what? I mean, good.
For being a naughty boy, and I was a naughty boy for that one. And I won't tell people what I actually did, but I was naughty for that one. So I deserve.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we won't bring it up again, like you said. I do remember. So I guess what we'll do is, even though I can't. I see the mic is off. Did we prompt you to say something, Brett, or did you just vanish and had no idea what happened in the interim?
I have no idea what happened in the interim.
All right, that's cool.
I just we
mocked you a little bit. It wasn't bad. We teased you a little bit, and we let. I think what we were saying is that we're coming to the end, and I think that once again, 2 hours. I mean, what do people want from us, Britisher? We started this thing. Oh man, it'll be a year before you know it. Ago, we didn't even know where it's going to go. It's evolved. It's devolved. It's changed. It's done its thing. We've nurtured it. We've given it sustenance. We've done what we can do, and we still. I mean, tonight we got a little criticism, and it was to me. Well, the format is nice, but I need to let things go on. I can't just, and maybe I'm sure I'll take that to mind. So we were wrapping it up. What do you think?
Okay, have we basically sort of reached the span of things and want to start wrapping wrapping it up.
Well, for what I meant from earlier too is I have, but we know from past experience. There's been times I've said that, and common sense, somebody has been like, "Nah, we've talked more." I don't know. I'm just saying that it was great. The football thing, Welchman stories. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I felt like I cut in there, and then common sense guy and I went off on a tangent, and you were gone for a minute. So I just don't want to ruin the show. That's all. I don't know.
Okay, we seem to have sort of pregnant silence here now at the moment, don't we? So I think it seems to me as though everyone has kind of has kind of said whatever they can say. So maybe this might be a good time to start a wrap up.
Yeah, let's get the hell out of here while we can.
Yep. I'm okay with that one. I'll get to go to sleep.
Well, awesome. Everybody knows the rules then. We'll start with Welchmere Stories. You can talk about anything you want. You can talk about something we spoke of today. You can talk about something we spoke of last week. Welchmere Stories, you had a comment that I should have picked up today, but I didn't for a reason. We'll do it on another day. You may want to speak to that a little bit, something that British or whatever it was. I don't know. But you can talk about anything. Wow, I feel like I just prodded him. It is time to end it, though, boys. That said, and so we'll start with you, Stories. Go to Common Sense Guy, British, or myself. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. I think that I could speak for everybody, so it's not awkward, and I don't do it at the end. You lot that threw in, your 2 pence, your hard-earned money. We really appreciate that. Point Creation and. Why am I having a brain? And Will Fisher. Why am I having a brain? Will Fisher. We really appreciate that. Those of you that didn't throw in any cash, we appreciate you being here. So I think from that, we'll take it off. We'll give our last words and end of the show.
All right. First thing, I must say thank you for inviting me. And thank you to you guys and to the audience to dealing with my strange, nasty English. And I would like to advertise my own channel for Sunday. Sunday we have the Captain Coldpile, and we have a guest star, and that is Nachi Free, and we will discuss is healthcare and is education, is that a human right or not? So on Sunday evening on the Welchmere Stories channel, yeah. Would be happy if you join. That is it from my side.
Okay, that's fair enough. No problem. I suppose I would like to go on to the story of Mugabe. Not for what he's done, not for what's going on in Zimbabwe at this point in time, but for the idea of a forced democracy. For where, no matter who or what said anything, if you have a process of the illusion of a democracy, is there actually a democracy? Or is it the process of just going through the emotions and the motions of any sort of general election or election with you knowing what the outcome's going to be? And if you don't know what the outcome's going to be after 37 years of having the same outcome, is there any point in trying to change that? Or, as other people have already said today, do you just wait until the person dies? Or do you wait for natural evolution to happen? I said evolution, not revolution, you commies. Just stay back. So what my point actually is, if you have the process of evolution, yeah, that went well. If you have the process of a democracy in front of you, is it the process of actual democracy happening? Or is it the illusion of democracy that makes us happy? I just wanted to ask that as an actual question to everybody. Do we feel that we're actually free in our nations by the process of elections and having a democracy and feeling that we actually are having an impact? Or do we feel like it's like Zimbabwe, where we don't actually change anything and it's just the illusion of democracy? And is that a good or a bad thing? I just would like to ask that as a question to everybody and everybody to think, because I can quite quickly give you what my answer is. I would much rather be happier in myself thinking I am making a difference in my democracy rather than having the illusion that I'm having a difference in the democracy. Because at least if thinking it, at least I feel that I'm doing something. Whether I am or not is something completely different. But at least I think that I am. I suppose you could say that's part of the illusion, though. It's just a very hard question for me when it comes to the point of democracy. Is it the point of actually making change and knowing that you're actually forcing a change? Or is it the point of the status quo winning and just thinking, oh yeah, it's just the way that it is? Is that all part of the illusion of democracy? Is democracy an illusion? Who knows?
Okay, well, thank you, Common Sense Guy. As for myself, I have very little idea what I actually want to say right now. As I had to step away from the computer a bit, came back, still a bit flustered. I think I will try and begin by just saying that I am still somewhat bemused, I think, and quite humbled at the idea that people actually listen to us. It is something that is quite hard to get used to. I mean, I now have been doing this for a little over a year, I think, give or take. And if you would have asked me whether I thought that I would, be where I am now after sort of a year or so, no. Particularly given the amount of competition that there is out there. Now, before I get too big-headed and everyone thinks, oh, well, he's got himself all these members. No, a lot of those came courtesy of a certain Mr. of Akkad. So, one knows that one didn't quite have to do as much legwork as perhaps the figure would suggest. But nonetheless, the fact that people just keep on coming back, keep on listening, to myself, but also to us. I could never have really, in previous years, imagined myself ever doing something like this. It doesn't come naturally to me. The ogre, perhaps more than anyone else, knows just how much for a nervous wreck I was in my first attempts at being on a live stream and so on. I can tell you for certain that just the first time of recording, I actually sweated through a t-shirt. I mean, you could pretty much wrung it out afterwards. The amount of concentration it took me to actually complete it, the amount of editing it needed to in any way be usable thereafter was epic. It's not something that comes natural, but it is something that I'm growing more and more to enjoy, especially because I kind of realize that people put their trust in one, in basically handing you their time and allowing you to just expand at your leisure, and that is a certain amount of trust that people are willing to give you, are willing to give us here, in basically giving us their time and just listening to us. And I actually think that's quite a privilege, and it's just worth pointing out, I think. So thank you very much to everyone. Over to you, Mr. Ogre.
Well, thank you so much, Britisher. That was wonderfully said. And it was tying into what I wanted to say so much. I made a couple notes while you were talking. It was just my way. I guess from years of school and then board meetings and I don't know, your various functions where I was expected to say something remotely intelligent about what was talked about. I got used to it. In fact, I had an old professor years ago that told me one day, I'd rather have a short pencil than a long memory. And I never forgot that. And so I got my short pencil out and I wrote down a couple things because, you know what, I don't want to toot our own horns either, but excellence. Is excellence something that's lost nowadays? And I understand. I don't want to mention the name again because I don't want it to seem like this is an answer to a person that I've already mentioned anyway, that made a critique, not a troll, but someone that give an idea. But when you're talking about excellence among peers, there has to be give and take. Everybody assembled here could say that we're there and witness it. Before the show today, there was give and take. There was talk of what would happen, what wouldn't, who would be here. And I'm not going to take this time to say who it was, but we could have had someone here today. Who cares? In the end, we decided that to be excellent, we'd all have to give a little to get a little. And then the getting was worth the giving. And I believe that with everything that I am, that no matter in the end if you sweat, Britisher. I wrote it down. It was hard for me to say it, but no matter if you sweat, the responsibility that someone has when it comes down to another human being giving you their time. In some cases, gentlemen assembled here with me, people pay for that time. I have paid for that time in the form of schooling, scholastic endeavor. And a lot of the times I was rewarded well. And monetarily, maybe not, but in knowledge beyond compare. It's made me ponder for the last week or so when the Britisher asked my wife if maybe she thought that there were some classes that shouldn't be allowed in school. Thought long and hard. I'm going to say again, no classes should be disbarred, not allowed in school if there's a call for it, but there should be a caveat, a buyer beware. There should be something there that if it is, for lack of a better term, socially useless, that it will say so. That if it is monetarily useless to the pupil, it will say so there. And I just want to say one more thing. When I think about this hapless Republican stooge, Mr. Moore, whatever his name is, Judge Moore, listen, I don't know if he's guilty. I don't know if he's innocent. But I learned a lesson early on here on YouTube with a woman I don't want to mention right now by name, but I learned that if you say a few things that are funny, somebody might take that. They may Photoshop what you said, and it may hurt your feelings because part of it may actually be what you said. It may have only needed a little tweaking. You may wonder, like I have, why they even tweaked it. Why didn't just leave it alone because it was bad enough as it stood? But from that experience for myself, boys assembled here, I've learned about this give and take. And I know I should have set a timer. This is it. This is the end. We're wrapping it up. But I learned about this give and take. And I don't talk. I don't joke with females anymore. When I hear Pence, and let me make it clear, I don't really care much for Pence. He's a Jesuit. Look into it. No joke. He was educated by Jesuit priests. To be honest, that would classify him as, at the very least, somebody that I would scrutinize and, to be honest, classify him very closely as an enemy. A Jesuit priest. They're looking to history. They're historically not good for freedom. Let's not rush to judgment. Let's strive for excellence. And wrapping up, let's make sure that we hold each other accountable. We all have our own ways. Common sense guy, Britisher. Even you, to a lesser extent, you're not as tight with me as the other boys, but you're here, stories, and you to another extent. You gentlemen have held me accountable. I hope in the future to hold you accountable. I hope that we can, with each other's help, and with the voices of many people, Brett, that you mentioned, I hope this is the beginning of a snowball that will grow so big that one day we'll look here and we will really be stunned at the folks that are here. Not because they're better than you lot assembled, but because of the sheer number. And yeah, when I look at the Oh goodness, let me not scratch my back about the Britishers about our percentages, because when you look at the percentages and what you lot decide to give us in super chat and how many are here, it is staggering to us. Because when we juxtapose that percentage wise to other people, we are staggered. So listen, folks, more than that, more than anything I've said here tonight, more than any point that anyone has made, I say with a pompous pride about me, with a righteous indignation, be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, or your loved one has done seems to be so huge you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, beloved patrons, and super chatters panel, at a time we think not, our friends, our family members, our loved ones, and everything we know will depart from us.